I never thought a single moment of honesty during intimacy would destroy everything I'd built. But here I am, 30 years old, alone in my empty apartment in Philadelphia, staring at the engagement ring box Dylan never got to open. The wedding dress hanging in my closet will never see the church aisle. The future I mapped out so carefully has crumbled because I couldn't keep my mouth shut about my past. Everyone keeps telling me I brought this on myself. My sister Sarah won't even return my calls anymore. My best friend Jessica told me straight up that I deserved what happened. Even my own mother said she's disappointed in how I handled everything. They're all right, and that's what hurts the most. What makes it worse is that I can still remember the exact moment I realized I'd lost him forever. It was when his best friend Tommy posted a photo of Dylan and Patricia at the same restaurant where we had our first date. The caption read, "Finally seeing my boy happy with someone who deserves him." 67 likes in the first hour. Every single one felt like a knife twisting deeper. Let me start from the beginning, back when I thought I was being smart about protecting my relationship. I met Dylan at a mutual friend's birthday party in January last year. He was everything I'd been looking for: stable, kind, successful, ready to settle down. At 29, I knew my window for finding the right partner was getting smaller. My friends were all getting married, having babies, building the lives I desperately wanted. Dylan was different from the guys I usually dated. He worked as a financial advisor, had his life together, owned a nice condo in Rittenhouse Square. He opened doors, planned real dates, called when he said he would. After years of dating guys who couldn't even commit to weekend plans, Dylan felt like winning the lottery. The problem started during our third date. We were having dinner at this intimate Italian place in Old City when he mentioned his views on relationships. "I've always believed in taking things slow," he said, swirling his wine. "I've only been with 2 women, both in serious relationships. I guess I'm old-fashioned, but I think intimacy means more when it's with someone special." My stomach dropped. 2 women. He'd been with 2 women. I'd been with more than 50 men, probably closer to 70 if I was really honest. College was a blur of parties and hookups. My 20s were filled with dating apps, one-night stands, friends with benefits. Then there was Blake. 3 years where we probably had sex over 1,000 times in every possible way and place imaginable. I still remember keeping a list in college, names and ratings in my phone. My roommate Brittany and I would compare numbers like it was a competition. She stopped at 32, got serious with her now husband. I kept going, treating men like Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. There was that spring break in Miami where I hit double digits in a week. The summer I spent cocktail waitressing and went home with a different customer almost every night. My friends called me Fearless Amanda because I'd approach any guy I wanted. But sitting there with Dylan, looking at his earnest face, I saw my chance at a different life. A real life. The kind where you have one man who comes home to you every night, not a rotating cast of strangers whose names you forget by morning. But sitting across from this amazing man who was looking at me with such genuine interest, I made a decision that would haunt me. "I feel the same way," I heard myself saying. "I've only had a few relationships, nothing too serious. I believe in quality over quantity, too." The lie came so easily. I told myself it was just a small omission, something I could clarify later when we knew each other better. I didn't mention Blake at all. Not the 3 years we spent together, not the toxic dynamic, not the extreme things I did to keep his attention that still made me cringe. Blake had been my weakness from 23 to 26. He was a bartender at a club in Northern Liberties, the kind of guy who had women throwing themselves at him every night. Tall, tattooed, with that dangerous charm that made smart women do stupid things. I was one of those stupid women. With Blake, I was insatiable. He'd ignore my texts for days, then show up at 2 a.m. expecting me to let him in. And I always did. We'd have sex for hours, try everything imaginable. He'd flirt with other women in front of me, sometimes bring them home for us to share. When I complained, he'd turn it around, say I was being boring, vanilla, prudish. So I learned to be adventurous about everything. The things I did with Blake would shock most people. Public bathrooms, his car, the beach, his bar after closing. He was into filming everything, sharing with his friends, sometimes including them. There were parties where I was the entertainment, trips to adult clubs where boundaries didn't exist. I thought being so sexually open made me sophisticated, liberated, special to him. I became someone I didn't recognize. There was this one night at his friend Derek's bachelor party where I was the surprise entertainment for 15 guys. Blake watched with pride like I was performing just for him. Or the weekend in Atlantic City where he won $5,000 at poker and celebrated by sharing me with the entire table of players. He'd rent hotel suites and invite people from adult websites to join us. I did things that would make adult film stars blush, all because I thought it meant he loved me more. The videos he took are probably still out there somewhere. I know he showed them to people. I'd catch his friends looking at me with knowing smirks at parties. One time his buddy Jake accidentally called me by my stage name that Blake had given me in the videos. When I confronted Blake, he laughed and said I should be flattered that his friends thought I was hot enough to be a professional. Before Blake, there had been dozens of others. My college years at Temple were wild. Frat parties every weekend, spring breaks in Cancun and Miami where I'd lose count of the guys. I had a reputation, and I wore it proudly then. Sex was power, fun, freedom. Why limit yourself? When I finally left Blake, it wasn't because I wanted to change. It was because I caught him in bed with my roommate. Even with everything we'd done, that betrayal broke me. I spent a year in therapy learning that I'd been seeking validation through sex, confusing quantity with self-worth. By the time I met Dylan, I thought I could reinvent myself. New Amanda. Relationship Amanda. The kind of woman a man like Dylan would marry. I deleted my old social media accounts, the ones with party photos and suggestive posts. I threw away the videos and photos from my past. I created a new version of myself. Dylan and I took things slow, just like he wanted. We didn't sleep together until we'd been dating for 2 months, and when we did, it was gentle, vanilla, everything Blake hadn't been. Dylan was sweet, traditional, always missionary, or maybe me on top. He'd light candles, play soft music, tell me how beautiful I was. It lasted maybe 10 minutes each time. I bit my tongue every time I wanted to suggest something different. The truth was, after thousands of wild encounters, Dylan's lovemaking felt like watching paint dry. But I loved him. Or at least I loved what he represented. Stability, marriage, children, a normal life. We moved in together after 6 months. I met his family, lovely conservative people who welcomed me warmly. His mother pulled me aside at Thanksgiving and told me she'd never seen her son so happy. "He's always been particular about relationships," she said. "I'm so glad he waited for the right person. These modern girls with their loose morals, that's not what a man needs for a wife." The guilt ate at me, but I buried it deeper. Dylan would mention how glad he was that we had similar values, how nice it was to be with someone who understood that intimacy was special, sacred even. Each time the lie grew heavier. If he knew the truth, that I'd probably been with more people than he'd shaken hands with, he'd be gone instantly. Then came the housewarming party that changed everything. It was a Saturday night in early September. Our friend Melissa had just bought a townhouse in Fishtown and threw a big party. Dylan and I arrived fashionably late, happy and comfortable, his arm around my waist. I was getting us drinks when I heard that laugh. That specific, arrogant laugh that used to make my whole body respond. Blake was there, leaning against the kitchen counter, surrounded by a group of women hanging on his every word. He looked exactly the same. Leather jacket, perfectly messy hair, that smile that promised a good time. Our eyes met across the room. His smile widened, and he excused himself from his admirers, walking straight toward me. My body betrayed me, pulse racing, skin flushing, remembering everything we'd done. Well, well, Amanda Morrison, the legend herself. He looked at my engagement ring with amusement. Someone actually locked you down? Blake. I kept my voice steady, though my hands shook. I didn't know you'd be here. Melissa's my cousin. Small world, right? He moved closer, and I could smell that cologne that used to drive me wild. You look different. Where's the party girl who could drink me under the table and still go for round 5? Dylan appeared at my elbow. Hey, babe, got those drinks? He looked between us, sensing the tension. Dylan, this is Blake, an old acquaintance. I couldn't say friend, could barely say acquaintance. Definitely couldn't say the man who'd had me in every possible way. Blake's laugh was cruel. Acquaintance? Come on, Mandy. 3 years, 7 days a week, multiple times a day. That's a little more than acquaintance. He extended his hand to Dylan. Blake Morrison. I'm shocked she hasn't mentioned me. We had quite the reputation back in the day. The color drained from Dylan's face as he shook Blake's hand. On the drive home, the silence was deafening. Finally, Dylan spoke. 3 years? You dated someone for 3 years and never mentioned it? I scrambled for damage control. It wasn't really dating, more like we hung out sometimes. It was casual, toxic. I didn't think it was worth mentioning. 3 years is casual? His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. How many times did you sleep with him? Dylan, please. It doesn't matter. That was the past. How many times? I don't know. Maybe once or twice. It wasn't important. The lie tasted bitter. Once or twice? Try once or twice a day for 3 years. Morning sex, lunch break quickies when he'd pick me up from work, all-night sessions that left me sore for days. But I couldn't tell Dylan that. Not when he'd been with 2 women total. He seemed to accept my answer, though I could see doubt in his eyes. We went to bed that night without touching, a wall of unspoken questions between us. I thought I'd escaped disaster until 2 weeks later. We were in bed on a Sunday morning, and Dylan was trying so hard to please me. He'd been going down on me for what felt like forever, using the same repetitive motion. I was frustrated, remembering how Blake used to do this thing with his tongue that could make me climax in minutes. Without thinking, I adjusted Dylan's technique, guiding him to copy what Blake used to do. And it worked. God, did it work. The orgasm hit me like a lightning bolt, and in that moment of ecstasy, with my guard completely down, the words tumbled out. Oh God, yes, just like that. Blake always did that thing with his tongue, and it drives me absolutely crazy every time. The second the words left my mouth, I knew I'd destroyed everything. Dylan pulled away like I'd slapped him. The look on his face, disgust, hurt, betrayal, will haunt me forever. Blake, your ex, Blake, the one you barely slept with? His voice was deadly quiet. I sat up, pulling the sheet around me, my mind racing for an explanation, but there wasn't one. I'd been caught. Dylan, I can explain. How many times did you really sleep with him? Does it matter? I'm with you now. How many times? I looked at his face, saw the relationship ending in his eyes, and decided on honesty. Too late, but I told him everything. The 3 years of constant sex, the hundreds, probably thousands of times, the things we did that I'd never even suggested with Dylan, how Blake had taught me things I was too ashamed to want anymore. But I couldn't tell him about the others. The 50-plus men before Blake. The fact that Dylan was probably somewhere around number 70 for me while I was number 3 for him. That truth would destroy him completely. Dylan listened in silence, then got up and started getting dressed. I need some space, he said, not looking at me. Dylan, please, that's not who I am anymore. I love you. What we have is different, special. Special? He finally looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. I thought I was making love to someone who chose me, who wanted me. But you've been lying there comparing me to him this whole time, haven't you? Wishing I was him? No, it's not like that. The sex with you means more because... Because what? Because I'm the safe choice? The good guy you settle for after you've had your fun? He was at the door now. I wanted to be with someone who saw sex the way I do, as something special between 2 people who love each other, not someone who's been with God knows how many people. It was just Blake and a few others. Stop lying, He slammed his hand against the doorframe. "Everything about you has been a lie from day one. How do I know anything about you is real?" He left that morning and didn't come back for 3 days. When he finally returned, it was to pack his things. He'd been staying with his brother, thinking everything through. During those 3 days, I went insane. I drove by his brother's house at least 20 times, called Dylan over 100 times, sent walls of text messages trying to explain. I even went to his office and had a complete breakdown in the lobby. The security guard, an older man named Frank, who'd always been friendly when I visited Dylan, looked at me with such pity as he asked me to leave. "Miss, he told us you might come by," Frank said gently. "He doesn't want to see you. You should go home." "But I love him!" I was sobbing, mascara running down my face. "If I could just explain." "Sometimes love isn't enough," Frank said. "My daughter went through something similar. The trust, once it's broken like that, it doesn't come back." "I can't do this," he said, methodically folding his clothes. "Every time I look at you, I imagine you with him, doing things you've never even suggested with me. It makes me sick." "Dylan, please. We can work through this. I'll do anything." "That's the problem. You already did everything. With him, with others. There's nothing special left for us." He paused at the door with his last box. "I wanted to marry someone who valued intimacy the way I do. Someone who saved something special for the person they claimed to love. You gave everything to guys who treated you like trash and expected me to be grateful for the leftovers." After he left, I called everyone. His brother, his best friend, even his mother. They all knew. He'd told them everything. His mother's message was brutal. "I'm glad my son found out what kind of woman you really are before he made the mistake of marrying you. He deserves better than someone who lied about being promiscuous." My own friends weren't much better. Jessica was blunt. "You lied to him from day one about something fundamental to who you are. What did you expect?" My sister Sarah added, "You knew his values and you deceived him. That's manipulation, Amanda." The engagement ring showed up in the mail a week later, the one he'd bought but never got to give me. His brother's wife let it slip that he'd been planning to propose on my birthday next month. The note just said, "I bought this for someone who doesn't exist." I tried everything to get him back. Showed up at his office. Security escorted me out. Waited outside his building. He walked past me like I was invisible. Wrote letters explaining that I'd changed, that he was the only one who mattered now. They all came back unopened. 3 months later, I saw on social media that he was dating someone new. Patricia from his office, 25 years old, blonde, looks like she stepped out of a church choir. His relationship status said, "Finally found someone who shares my values." The comments from his friends were brutal. "So happy you found a good girl." "This one's a keeper, not like the last one." His brother posted, "When you know, you know. Some people are wife material, some aren't." 6 months after our breakup, they were engaged. The announcement post talked about waiting for the right person, about how some things are worth keeping special for the one you'll marry. His mother commented, "So proud of you for not settling. Patricia is exactly the kind of girl I prayed you'd find." I found out through mutual friends that Dylan had actually started going to therapy after our breakup. Not to deal with the pain, but to understand how he'd missed all the red flags. His therapist apparently told him that people like me are expert manipulators, that we create false personas to trap good people. The therapist wasn't wrong. Patricia posts about their relationship constantly. Pictures of them at church together, volunteering at the animal shelter, having picnics in the park. Normal, wholesome things that Dylan had wanted to do with me, but I'd found boring. I'd always pushed for nights out at clubs, parties where I could drink and feel that old rush of attention from other men. Dylan would go along, looking uncomfortable, not knowing that I was fighting every instinct to revert to my old self. The real kicker came when Patricia posted about their engagement story. Dylan had taken her to the same spot in Fairmount Park, where he'd told me he was falling in love with me. He'd even used the same photographer he'd secretly booked for what was supposed to be our engagement. But the worst part was the ring. It wasn't the one he'd bought for me. It was his grandmother's ring, the one his mother had shown me at Thanksgiving, saying she was saving it for when Dylan found the one. I remember holding that ring, feeling its weight, imagining it on my finger. His mother had told me the story, how his grandfather had saved for a year to buy it in 1952, how he'd proposed at the exact same spot in Fairmount Park. "We only pass this ring to women we know will be in the family forever," she'd said. Now Patricia wears it, and in every photo it catches the light like it's mocking me. I still check their profiles obsessively. Their wedding is next month, the same church where Dylan and I had talked about getting married. Patricia posts about their pure love, how they're waiting until marriage because some things are sacred. The comments praise her for being not like other girls these days. Meanwhile, I'm 30 and single, starting over in a dating pool where most of the good men are taken. My therapist says I need to forgive myself, that my past doesn't define me. But it does, doesn't it? It defined everything with Dylan. I've tried dating again, but it's impossible. When I'm honest about my past, men either see me as easy or run for the hills. When I lie, I spend every moment terrified of another Blake situation. The funny thing is, I actually did love Dylan. Not the wild, crazy way I thought I loved Blake, but real love. The kind where you want to build a life together. But he was right about one thing. I gave everything to men who treated me like garbage and expected him to be honored to get what was left. I thought my past didn't matter if I changed, but it does. Every choice we make becomes part of who we are. My friends tell me I'll find someone who accepts all of me, past included. But I watch Dylan and Patricia's happiness play out on social media and know the truth. I had someone wonderful, and I destroyed it with lies. He's living the life we planned while I'm sleeping alone, wondering if honesty from the start would have changed everything, or if my past made me unsuitable for someone like him from the beginning. The worst part? Blake texted me last month. "Heard you're single again. Want to grab a drink?" And for a moment, just a moment, I considered it. Because at least with Blake, I never had to pretend to be something I wasn't. But I deleted the text. I've learned that much at least. Some mistakes you can't come back from. Some lies destroy more than just relationships. They destroy the future you desperately wanted. I'm proof of that. 30, single, and starting over with the knowledge that the best thing that ever happened to me walked away because I was too much of a coward to tell the truth from the beginning. They say the truth sets you free. In my case, it set Dylan free. Free to find someone who actually was what I pretended to be. And me? I'm free too, I guess. Free to live with the consequences of thinking my past wouldn't matter to someone who valued the future.